Welcome to episode 21 of the Life in Norway show. After many years of lagging behind its Nordic neighbours Sweden and Finland, Norway is finally catching up, supporting new business and entrepreneurship. One issue remaining is that support programs and startup ecosystems tend to be concentrated in and around the cities. So what does a budding entrepreneur who just happens to live in rural Norway do? Today's guest, Torill Wilhelmsen, believes ordinary people can achieve remarkable things no matter where in the country they live. She started her education-based business Fjellflyt to help other people start profitable, sustainable businesses. Today, we talk about the challenges and benefits of working for yourself in rural Norway. You can find out more information on Torill, her business, and everything we talk about on the show today on the show notes page. Simply go to lifeinnorway.net/podcast and look for episode 21. Happy listening. I'd like to welcome Torill Wilhelmsen to the latest episode of the Life in Norway show. Torill, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's an honor being here.
Thank you very much yourself. Torill, you are the founder of Fjellflyt, which in English means mountain flow. So I think it's a much snappier name in Norwegian. So perhaps we should start by explaining what Fjellflyt actually is.
So that's a name I came up with that reflects the experience I want entrepreneurs to have when they're out and walking their way to success by being in movement and thinking creatively while they walk. So the word fjell, mountains, reflects where I'm based in the national park region. We have 6 national parks. So I wanted a name that reflected my geographic location and my love for the outdoors. While flyt or flow is the concept that's best described by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He was a researcher that really dove into how you can reach a state of flow when you work on something you really enjoy and at the same time you're challenged. So that's a really great state to be in while you're an entrepreneur and working on your business.
Okay, so I think a lot of people who hear about people living in Gudbrandsdal and other valleys in central Norway assume that everyone is involved in farming or possibly tourism. What is your path to entrepreneurship? Where did you begin from and what brought you in this direction?
That's a really good question because you're right. That's the 2 main occupations here, I think. So I'm running an online business and a coworking space, and we also have an international entrepreneurship festival in the mountains. So I'm doing quite different things. So what led me here was that I always had an interest for entrepreneurship from the time I studied at the university in Ås. So I studied international economy and resource development. And I really wanted to go on an adventure when I was starting my career. So I moved to Lom in Gudbrandsdal, quite far up north. And I started working as head of business in a municipality. And while I did that, I came in contact with a lot of really driven and dedicated entrepreneurs. And they were all struggling with taking care of themselves while they were starting their own business. I was also doing a lot of work myself, and the combination of long work hours, traveling, and being a new mom led to a burnout. So I quit my job to get some headspace and create a much healthier work environment for myself. So my mission that I'm on now is that I want to create community for both rural and also urban entrepreneurs that are like-minded in the way they approach their business. I call this a philosophy of slow business. So it's really where the best of work meets the best of the outdoors. So there, like Fjellflyt comes back again.
Okay, this is an interesting concept you have. So, slow business. I'm quite familiar with the concept of slow travel. That's quite a buzzword in the travel industry these days. So, rather than rushing around every city you can and every site you can, you sort of slow down, spend a week in one place and really absorb everything that's going on. Slow business. Are we talking about not being obsessed with growth? For example, the startup culture from Silicon Valley, or does slow business to you mean something else?
I think it's a reaction to what we see both in the technology startup world, where you have this emphasis on hustle and growth, especially growth when it comes to users. And I'm working with the kind of entrepreneurs that really value sustainability, both on a personal and environmental level. So slow business for me is really business owners that have realized that you can replace your computer if it's broken, but you can't just order a new body online. So they want to take care of themselves to protect their productivity and their creativity, and they want to build their life's works. And you really can't do that if you're burned out. So it's more a long-term approach and not the hustle and work yourself to the ground approach that we see so much these days.
It sounds as if your upbringing in the central Norway, in a very rural area, and the fact that you've returned there now have had a massive influence on what you do now. So can you tell us a little bit about life in central Norway, everyday life? What's it like to live there compared to city life in Norway?
Actually, I'm not from here. I moved here because I found this the best place to live.
Oh, so,
I see. I'm from the south of Norway, 1 hour south of Oslo. And I really felt when I finished my master's degree that I was near burnout already finishing university. I worked so much and I was really dedicated. So I spent too much time in front of my computer, researching, crushing numbers. And I think I just felt that I needed to make a change to be able to live life to the fullest and not just having these career ambitions in a research institute. So I moved to Gudbrandsdal because I was a scout and I really love being outdoors. So life here is like a holiday, basically. It's a much slower pace. I still work a lot, but I don't spend any time commuting. I have a coworking space here with 12 other really nice colleagues that are also small business owners. And we spend so much time outdoors. Yesterday, I went skiing with my 9-month-old baby and my 9-year-old son and my husband. And tomorrow we're possibly going to Ake. What's that? Sledding? And we don't spend any time dreaming of going out of the city because this is like a micro-urban workplace in the coworking space, and we have the freedom to spend the time that we have outside of work in a really efficient way to enjoy life.
You are certainly selling your part of Norway as a good place to start a business. I'm really interested in this, and the fact that you are in a co-working space with 12 people fascinates me. I'm in a co-working space in Trondheim, Work, which is one of 3 or 4, maybe even more now, similar spaces in the city. How does a co-working space work in such a rural area? I mean, your definition of entrepreneurship, I guess, is extremely wide. So we're talking here not just people that are looking to start large businesses, but people who are working for themselves, freelancers, or maybe even remote workers as well.
Yes, so mainly I talk about lifestyle businesses. So here we have an actor, we have people touring the world playing the violin. We have a copywriter, a few programmers, designers, event planners. So it's quite a diverse group, but we also have people running a mountain lodge and ecological vegetable farming. So it's quite a diverse group we have, but mainly lifestyle businesses.
This sounds like a really diverse, interesting group of people. How did this all get started?
This started 3 years back when I had a home office for 2 years, and I was really tired of doing the dishes instead of getting to work and being productive in my work hours because I didn't want to procrastinate all the time. So I contacted some friends that also had home offices, and we started to recruit people that didn't live here at the time, but that was really intrigued by moving from a bigger city to a more rural place. So when we gathered the founding group, then we got together and decided that this is something we want to do, and this is how we wanted to feel going to work. And we worked with an interior designer and got a private investor. And then we got to work building the space. So we have a really beautiful design space in an old wooden building in the center of Vågå, where we have modern furniture and these old timber walls. So it's a really great house to work in. It just feels light and expansive. So now we have been going for 3 years without any support from the government, and we're really privately run. So I've been operating this space now, and I really see that we have a big possibility here with inviting people in to move here and be part of our community. And also with the international festival we're planning, because we are a part of an international coworking movement. So from Mesh in Oslo to Digs and Work in Trondheim and the Hub in Lillehammer, we formed a national network of Norwegian coworking spaces a few years back. And the members there are only creative workers. So it's actually a network of 900 different professionals that are part of our network and can come and work here for free a couple of days.
Excellent. So as well as having Fjellflyt, your everyday business, you're also involved in the co-working space. Is the co-working space run as a cooperative, or how does that function?
I like simplicity in my life, so it's part of my business.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
You say simplicity, but that sounds more like adding complexity to me. How do you manage your own business with the needs of running a co-working space as well?
Well, I have a co-working space manager, so she works with me 40%, and she operates the space.
Okay. Well, Torill, I want to ask you plenty of questions, given that I've run a business in Norway for several years as well, about the challenges of starting a business in Norway, the benefits of starting a business in a rural area, and some of your tips. And we'll look at some of these questions after a quick break. Today's episode of the Life in Norway show is brought to you in association with the book How to Find a Job in Norway. Landing a job in Norway is the most difficult hurdle to overcome as a newcomer to the country. Even the most experienced expat has to compete against a highly educated workforce with near native English language ability. But there is a way through. By following a proven strategy, this book will help you to understand the job market in Norway, find the job vacancies best suited for you, discover what Norwegians are looking for in an employee, succeed with the job interview by knowing exactly what to expect, and avoid the most common mistakes made by foreigners job seeking in Norway. To get your copy today, simply search How to Find a Job in Norway on Amazon, or head on over to lifeinnorway.net/job for a full list of retailers. And now, back to the show. Welcome back to the Life in Norway show. I'm with Torill Wilhelmsen, a certified business strategist and owner of a co-working space in Vågå in rural Norway, right in the middle of the country. Now, Torill, Norway in general, is it a good place to start a business? Because the Nordic region, I think, is known for entrepreneurship, but perhaps Norway less so when you compare Norway to Sweden and Finland. So what's your opinion of Norway as a place to do business?
I think Norway is a great place to start a business because we have great infrastructure, and we also have a security net. So if something happens, then we're not going to be poor or have to move maybe. Or if we get health issues, we also have this security net by the government. So in that way, it's a really great place to start a business. Another factor is that Norwegians are early adopters. So we love new technology, we like to try new things, but we're also a bit lazy because we're really used to having high wages. So working hard for several years without being able to maybe pay ourselves and not reaching the same level of income as we had before is not something we're really interested in doing. So I think it's a great place to start if you're willing to be an entrepreneur and do the hard work, but it doesn't come easy.
Sure thing. I mean, when you compare it to employment, I think it's fair to say that Norway is also one of the best places in the world to be an employee, not just for the high wages, but as you say, for that safety net. That it's also very hard to get fired, for example, just on a day-to-day basis, unless you're incredibly bad at your job. So there's and a high pension, of course, and many other benefits of being employed. So do you think there's something that the government can do to make entrepreneurship more attractive? I mean, clearly you're not about to reduce the employment conditions in Norway. So what can the government do to increase entrepreneurship as an attractive option, if they indeed need to?
I think it's not up to the government to make more of us entrepreneurs. I think that we need to rely on ourselves and our desire to create something. And if you have that entrepreneurial spirit and the drive and the fire inside of you, and you want to create something from scratch, then I think it's already great. That said, I really wish it was more equally treatment of people running their own business and people that are employed. So, for example, when I had my second child last year, I discovered that I had to wait for a very long time to get my application for maternity leave being processed. And it's also difficult if you, for example, are burned out after you've been self-employed. So it's not the same as being employed. So what I recommend is that you actually start an aksjeselskap, so a limited where you can employ yourself from the beginning.
And that's exactly what I do in my business. I started as a self-employed for 6 months and quickly realized that it would be better to start a limited company or an LLC equivalent here in Norway and employ myself. So it sounds as if that's what you do as well. Absolutely. That's what I did and what I recommend. Yeah, I think it's more expensive, but it gives you the both benefits of being an employee in general terms, and then of course of owning a business and being in charge of your own direction. It's just marginally more expensive, I think. You have to maybe pay for an accountant if you're not doing that yourself. But they reduced the cost, or the government reduced the cost of starting your own business quite drastically a few years back when they reduced the amount you have to bring to the table when you start your business from 100,000 kroner to 30,000. So if you're starting something, you need some money in the beginning anyway. And when you have started your aksjeselskap, you're limited, then it's actually possible to use those money to run your business. So you just need them in the beginning, and then you can start using them. Okay, good tip there. Thanks very much, Torill, for that. The benefits for people starting a business. A lot of people would assume, I think, that Oslo or Trondheim or Bergen or somewhere like that would be the obvious place to go to start a business, simply for the network effect, for advice, for potential customers and so on. What are the benefits of starting a business in somewhere like Vågå?
So many. Where can I start? So it's both personal benefits and benefits for the business. So if we start with the business, it's of course the cost side of things. So one of the biggest mistakes people make when they start their business is that they spend too much money in the beginning, and things take more time than they believe when they start out, and so they run out of time and money. And it's cheaper to start a business in rural areas, both in terms of lease, but also in terms of the costs of living. So you don't need that much money to get by. Another factor is that you can actually find a co-working space like we have here at Beta. And it's done a lot of research on the networking effects and how you can more easily break into the local ecosystem of businesses to get your first customers when you're part of a co-working space. So even if you're out of the big cities, you can get those benefits in rural areas. And third, I think it's a really important factor that if you're starting your own business in Norway, you have an aim of enjoying your life. So it's more free. You can experience more adventure. You can go exploring more. And you can also get access to resources you don't have in the big city. For example, if you buy a farm or if you have a house, you can have a bigger house and get a home office. You can start your own business in a small center or a town.
Torill, you are doing a fantastic job of selling us the benefits of working in a rural area. And I think that first benefit is really key because I sort of did the same thing when I started my business, even though I stayed in a city, which was reducing my personal expenses. And this is especially important if you're moving from a position of being employed. So let's say you're earning 40,000 kroner a month. To earn the same in a business, you're going to need to be bringing in 60, maybe 70,000 into the business to be able to pay 40,000 as a salary. And that's just not going to be possible in the first couple of months, maybe even the first couple of years. So if you can cut your living expenses, and I'm assuming by, as you say, moving to a rural location, you can really cut those expenses, then you maybe only need to pay yourself 30 or even 20,000 a month for the first year whilst you're building the business. Do you see a lot of people going through this process, and are people actually attracted to the rural area for that reason?
I think we're seeing a shift in the trends now, because I think people are a bit conceived of the possibilities in the city, and they either move there from another city, from a smaller city to a bigger one, from a town to a mid-sized city, or from rural areas into the city. And then when they get children, life gets busy, their career takes off, they realize that the quality of life isn't what they thought it would be. So I think some of the factors that really influence how we feel and if we're happy or not, we can have those in other places. And I think that as long as you have a community where you stay, and you have a community of like-minded entrepreneurs all over the country and even all over the world, then you feel connected to what's going on the big scene of things. So then you basically can live anywhere. And I think that's going to be a shift now that we will see from people thinking that the rural areas consist of places that are boring, far away, where not much happens. I mean, I've never been as busy as I am here, but I'm busy in another way. So I have lots of friends, intelligent friends that I can have interesting conversations with. It's not what people maybe thought before, that it was this brain drain from rural areas into the cities. So you have groups of people that are also into entrepreneurship, that really wants to create something the place they are from or where they have moved. And I think it's so much to say for places like that in the future.
Excellent. Well, this conversation has been pretty positive so far, but I'm sure there are also some challenges for people starting a business in such a remote or rural area, not necessarily remote. And as a big part of your job is actually working with people who work in rural areas, you must see some of the challenges that people have to work through to succeed. So can you talk about some of those, what people should be aware of if they're looking to start a business in a rural area?
Absolutely. And actually, I think this is quite similar if you're starting in a rural area or in the city. And the biggest problem in our time, I think, is entrepreneurial loneliness. So it's really easy to be consumed by your work and just working away in your business, not working so much on your business and the structure you need to build it up and free yourself up, so you don't have to be on email all the time and answer phone calls all the time. And I think that being alone is something that really has a detrimental effect on the mental health of entrepreneurs. And statistics show that it's actually 30% of entrepreneurs that get depressed, which is much higher than in the general population. So this is a fact that we have to be aware of when we're venturing into a new adventure, like starting your own business is. So we need this network of like-minded people around us. We also need mentors, we need teachers, and maybe we need something like a mastermind group that can help us and support us through this really exciting journey that's also bringing so much joy and problems with it.
I think that's a very honest assessment. We talked a little bit earlier about what your business, Fjellflyt, at least not the co-working space, but Fjellflyt does. Could you maybe talk in a little more detail for anyone that's interested in the concept of going it alone in Norway and possibly even going it alone in a rural area, how you're able to help them and some of the programs and events that you have coming up later this year in 2019?
Yes, I love to talk about that. We have an online course which is in Norwegian. It's called Gründertrening, so entrepreneurship training, where I, as a certified business strategist in something called the Quiet Power strategy, help entrepreneurs work systematically with product development and creating a concept that they later can scale. So it's everything from developing the product, launching, marketing, and sales. And you learn while you walk. So we have created audio lectures that you can listen to while you're out walking, getting the effect we talked about in the start, where you actually get 60% more creative when your body is moving. We also have a couple of events that you can attend even if you're not a Norwegian speaking person yet. So the biggest one will be something called the Slow Business Adventure. It's essentially a slow business adventure because we invite small businesses from all of Europe to join us in the mountain lodge of Gjendesheim near Jotunheimen National Park between the 9th and 12th of September in 2019, and hopefully every year after that. So that's going to be quite an experience because we have international workshop leaders talking about everything from content creation to user testing, how to write your next book. And we also have something called the campfire conversations. So now you and I touched on the problem of entrepreneurial loneliness, and we have something called the campfire conversations. So the concept is that we gather international thought leaders around a campfire near the lake of Gjende. And they will have an honest conversation about what goes on behind their business. What are the problems they have in balancing life and work? How are they approaching all the new technology? How are they running their business while also starting a family? So everything that you can't see on blogs or online courses, but that you really want to ask people that have succeeded and are a few steps ahead of you. So that's the main event we have this year. We also have a planner called the Focus Planner and a full-day workshop called Plan A that we really want to take on the tour this year.
That is an awful lot of events, courses, and so on that you've got going this year. It sounds fascinating, and I do hope to join you myself in Jotunheim in September, because that event sounds right up my street. Where can people find out more information about yourself and some of these events?
The best place to go for the international event is the website slowbusinessadventure.com. And if you want to see a really cool animated video about the positive effects walking can have on your productivity, then you can go to my Norwegian website, Fjellflyt.no.
Excellent. And for those listening who don't speak Norwegian yet, that is spelt FJELLFLYT.no, Fjellflyt.no. Torill, thanks so much for spending this time. I know we could speak all day about some of these topics, but I like to keep the episodes fairly short. But before you go, I have a few questions which I ask all guests on the Life in Norway show. So if I could have some quick answers from you on these 3 questions. Firstly, what's the best thing about living in Norway?
Maternity leave.
What do you find most challenging about living in Norway?
That it's really, really difficult to find quality local food in normal stores.
I'm going to have to expand this question given your answer, I think. So given that you live in a rural area, what sort of farming entrepreneurship is going on? Because we obviously in the cities, we have farmers markets and it's a great place to buy some local food. But are there any businesses starting up in your area around this exactly this problem that you've just described?
Well, we are actually buying directly from those farmers. So instead of going to the farmers market, we go to the farmers, or they come home on the door in my home with the food. So I've had people coming with, for example, 2 baby goats, one in each arm, into my kitchen.
Wow. So I guess that's a business that doesn't scale, I think. So I can see the problem there of why. But perhaps it's an opportunity for somebody. Who knows? Anyway, I'm breaking my own rules here by asking for quick answers. So apologies for that. Last question is, where is your favorite place in Norway, whether that's a whole town or a small spot on a mountain hike somewhere?
Actually, that's my co-working space, Beta, because this is something that people said we couldn't create. It's this environment of people building lifestyle businesses and also enjoying the rural life in so many other ways. So this is a place where I can work, but where I also meet my friends. So this is the best place I know.
Torill, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.